Thank you for joining us on Merit Matters, a virtual series highlighting current events, industry experts, and local community engagement. I am your host, Tammy Verklid, Principal of Merit Construction, and today we have a very special interview closing out the podcasts for our campaign, All In. Sullivan Painting and Merit Construction have worked together for over 20 years. Over the past 2 years, I've had the great pleasure of working with Alyssa as she has unexpectedly taken on full leadership of Sullivan Painting. Today we'll talk about what it means to be all in to her, how her father has inspired her work ethic, and how she intends on continuing the legacy of an all-in business. Please enjoy Alyssa Sullivan. Allie, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to talk to you about All In.
I'm excited to be here.
Good, that's great. So tell me, from your perspective, what does it mean to you to be all in?
All in means to me to be fully committed with all of your energy, your presence, and everything that you can possibly give. Whether it's your time, whether it's any of it.
Yeah, it's like your time, your money, your skill set, all of those things are parts of it, I think, too, to being all in. I totally agree. Do you have examples from your life, whether it be your personal life or your work life, that you would share that are an example of all in?
I would say that my entire life, this last year and a half, nearly 2 years, would be all in. With my dad's motorcycle accident happening a year and a half ago, I had to completely step into the business role, and it helped that I had 4 years prior with him, but it was my first year fully taking over. 2022 was my full year taking over. And so on top of that, I'm still trying to finish my bachelor's, so I have to make sure that I'm running and supporting Sullivan Painting, and then also still giving my time for school so I can finally check that off my list. And then also still trying to find time with my husband and my personal life. And I haven't quite figured out the work-life balance yet, but that's also on my list to check off.
I want to take a little bit more time on that in particular, because that is one of the main reasons that I wanted to share your story about All In. So just a little bit of background. Merritt and Sullivan have been working together for many years, and I have worked with your father for many years. And he has been excited for you to grow with him in the business. And then all of a sudden, you're working with him in the business and you're doing a great job. And then all of a sudden he gets in an accident. And it was a very serious accident. It was very scary for all of us. And not only are you running the business during that time, but you're going and seeing your dad all the way in Portland every day. You're running the business. You're driving to Portland every day. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I was so worried about you during that time and so concerned about how much of yourself you were giving. And I never once felt like you were letting down, or that you were it was like you had such strong determination to make it all the way through. It was mind-blowing.
Thank you. I mean, I definitely couldn't have done it without my mom. I went down every other day, and on the days that I couldn't go, my husband went with her. So we could not have done it without all of us.
And that's what it is for family. That's what All In comes to play. Like people talk about how important family is, and how family's everything and all these things. Well, you guys were tested.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like, okay, now you have to, prove this out. Like, is this real? And I just think that your family was a dynamic example of All In the way that you supported your dad. And I was so grateful that he had that, rallying of support around him. He's a friend of mine. And so it made me feel so much better. And to be able to stay connected with you, just every little while, you would give me an update, or I would check in and ask, how are things going? What's happening? And man, I I'm proud of you. I'm,
Thank you.
blown away and excited by the future for not just your company, but your family as well. I mean, I think you guys really laid it all out there and are a good example for others.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And I mean that just as genuinely as I can. Can you think of a time in our work together or a job when everyone really seemed all in? We all go through lots of jobs, and sometimes it's great and sometimes we're like, "Oh my gosh, we can't wait for this one to be over." But can you think of one where like it just felt like everybody was, vibing and it was good, and then how did that impact that particular job for you?
I think MITCC is our like current best example of all of that. I mean, it's one of the largest projects for a lot of you guys and a lot of the other subs that we've ever done. And there's so many different moving parts and so many different subs on that job. And we're all different, like moving pieces, but we're so codependent on each other of everyone finishing their piece of the puzzle. And there's no way that we would all work as smoothly as we have been, especially without Darren. Like, I don't know how Darren sleeps at night, but I am truly impressed with him. And then I don't know how you sleep at night, like having to watch over everything. Because I mean, this project is amazing, but at the same time, it is tested my brain power on it. So um,
It
but
it
I
it
mean,
is.
all of the subs that we've been working with, I mean, we're really codependent on the drywallers, but the people that they have on site have been really, really communicative with my lead on site. And that just kind of helps us know where to move next. And and I mean, they'll give us a couple days in advance. So it gives us time to get all of our things ready. And so then that way we're not holding up the people behind us, like the tile guys or the ACT guys. So, I mean, it's the perfect example of everyone just trying their best and really, and like knowing how many people depend on them to finish their aspect of it.
Yeah, I think that you said that so perfectly, and that is so real. What we do is really hard, and it is really hard because at any moment, any sub could have a situation where, they something happens either on a job or in somebody's personal life or whatever, where they can't come to the table and perform in the window that you have them in there, right?
Right.
And then it's like dominoes in what we do, and it affects everybody after us. And so, I would agree with you. Darren has done a phenomenal job keeping everybody apprised of what's happening, giving everybody a little bit of a look ahead on a constant basis. And we try to do that on every job, but I think you're right that there's so many trades happening at the same time on this job that even the trades need to communicate. It's not just Darren taking care of it. All the
Right.
trades need to be partners, and they
Right.
have been true partners and team members, recognizing that they're interdependent on each other for their success. So I agree with you. I think for what that project is, the complication of it, the size of it, everything about it, I think it's gone phenomenally well. And I'm very proud of the project
Even
and
like
all of our
the
team
speed of the
members.
schedule has been,
Yeah,
I was surprised to see how like the overall schedule project and like the duration of it. And I mean, for a project that large, I'm surprised it didn't have an extra like 6 months tacked onto it. And the fact that we are all making it happen in that amount of time it's impressive for everyone, but
it
especially
is.
Darren.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. And I think just what you said, that people are trying their best. Like everybody's like, no, we don't want to be the one person who lets Darren
Right.
down. Because everybody else is stepping up. And
Right.
I think that's what all in is. That's understanding that you impact someone else. So you're going to give it everything you have to make your part of it the very best.
Exactly.
Um, very similar to the way you described it in the beginning. It's just like in that project, we're seeing it in action. Yeah, I love that. So, Alyssa, tell me about a time in your life when you weren't all in, but now wished you were.
Oh, I have been kicking my butt over that question because I have the perfect example. I was I graduated high school with my associate's degree for the Running Start project or Running
Yep,
Start program.
right.
And so after I graduated high school, I knew that I had an extra 2 years underneath my belt to kind of just do whatever I wanted with, since I was
Mm,
kind of ahead of the schedule. And so I went and started work immediately. And at the time, I was working for like a restaurant and Starbucks. And so through Starbucks, they started their program with ASU to where
Right.
they'll pay for your tuition.
Hmm.
And I didn't take it as seriously as I needed to. There were some classes that I just didn't even pay attention to, and I didn't get the best grades in it. So I failed it, and I'd have to retake a couple classes. And I wish I would have just given it my all. And because now I'm having to finish my bachelor's on top of like everything else I already have going on, and it's hard. If I'm already doing probably 60 hours a week right now at work, and then trying to find time to do homework and put my all into these classes and like really, really finish. So I'm definitely like kicking myself for not being smarter when I was younger.
Well, the thing is, at the time, it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel as important. And especially you had your thing where, oh, I'm ahead of the game. And,
Right.
you just kind of not taking really a lot serious at that point. Honestly, I think that's super typical. And the time where you realize it is later in your life where you're like, if only I would have done that,
Right.
I wouldn't have to be doing it today. And
Exactly.
that's where you feel
Exactly.
it. So I think it is a good question in that if you think back and think, man, my life today could be so much easier if I had
Right.
done something earlier. So I think honestly, I think that's super common and a lot of people feel that same way, like, oh, if only. Who in your life would you consider to be someone who is all in and why?
I would say my dad. He's a perfect example of it. I mean, even starting his business, he put everything he possibly had with his time, his money, his energy, his mindfulness. And just to make this company so successful. And not only did he want it successful for him, it's because he treats every single employee we have as family. I mean, we feel like we're technically the providers for their family, so our guys never have to worry about having a paycheck or like where the next project's coming, if they're going to be able to buy like Christmas presents or whatever for their family. And especially in the winter for slow times, that's something that we pride ourselves on, that we try as best as we can to keep every single person working throughout the winter. And we just let them know that means that they're gonna have to work some overtime in the summer, but we rather keep everyone working than not and have to lay people off.
Yeah.
And he's prided himself on that for so long. And I mean, we're even without him here right now, we're still growing. So all of the placements that he's put into progress, it's we're building on them. And so I he's dedicated his life to this company, so I hope that I can only match him. And then even now with his recovery, he's putting his all into it because he wants to come back to work. I mean, he's closer to retirement. I shouldn't say that because he won't believe it, but
Yeah.
I mean, this company is his baby, and I don't know that he will ever fully be able to let go. But even with his recovery, he's still like calling and checking to make sure I'm not burning the place down.
Yes. Well, it's his life's work. It's what
Exactly.
he spent his entire life building, and it wasn't just also that he wanted to be good at what he did or that he wanted to be a tremendous provider for his family and for his work staff. And I truly value that in him. It's something that I take very seriously also. And it is a lot of pressure to know that you need to make sure that other people can provide for their families. And so I always understand that pressure and I respect, the hell out of him for caring about that and for him to pass that on to you as well. But the other thing he did is he got as serious as you could get about his trade. He invested in his trade. He went and became highly educated and a specialist and the president of some
The PDCA.
organization. Yeah, what is that?
It's a Painting and Decorating Contractors of America, but they switched their name to PCA now. But he
Okay.
was president of the Tacoma chapter, the Washington chapter.
Yeah, I believe it was the whole state. And, you know, if we ever had any conversations, it was about, the perfection that he expected out of, the people, the trades that came before him, so that he could get what he needed out of it. And it was very serious to him, and
Right.
he was very proud of what he did and what his people did, and he took it very seriously, which he still does. I mean, he just kind of has a little bit of a different role in it at this point in the game, but I love how he passed that work ethic on to you guys, his employees. We can always depend on for being professional, for caring, specifically about merit. I know that they care about a merit job, and I very much
Right.
appreciate that. And from, you and I couldn't, ask for a better relationship. I know you know this, but right before your dad had his accident, he and I had been having a conversation, just a text conversation, and he had said, that he hopes that I will always be as supportive to Alyssa as I have been to him. And I had promised him at that time, 100%, I always would have your back. And it's been such a just brings me joy to have developed our relationship further since your dad's accident, and for you and I to be able to meet and talk about things, and just have a relationship where we can talk, to women business owners, talking about the difficulties in what we're trying to accomplish. So I'm 100% all in, for you, and as I have been for your dad.
And I appreciate that more than because you are the perfect example to learn from, and I'm so grateful that I get to learn from someone like you, especially with all that you've accomplished from becoming the new owner of Merit. I mean, I would love to just follow in your footsteps where I can in reflection to my own company now. So
Well, I am right here, and we're going to be doing that, and I look forward to it. So, last question. Do you have an all in story that you've seen in the community? It can be you or not you, or your organization, but that left you feeling like that situation was definitely all in, and I could see the results of that.
I think Merit as a whole is a great example of that. From just as soon as you guys heard about my dad's accident, being so supportive of myself personally and then us as a company, and still having the confidence in us to continue being your sub, especially on a project like MITCC. We were still bidding that project as my dad's accident happened. And so I think it shows so much that you guys had the confidence in us to still bring us on that project, knowing like what I was dealing with in the background. And then anything from like the sock donations that you guys were doing, and then the Tenino food drive that we did, painted
Yeah.
like a door or something for, and then all of the Boys and Girls Clubs projects. We've developed such a great relationship with the Boys and Girls Club, and I think a lot of that stems from working on those projects with you guys from back in like 2007, I think.
Yep. That's the
It was
first
before
one.
my time, so
Yeah. Yeah, and that the Boys and Girls Club is definitely Len, Len Zarelli. He has been committed to them from the beginning. And because it's such a great organization, and I've learned so much about them through him, and then it's just this automatic thing where we ask our subs to join in things. And whenever we do something like that, you guys have always been awesome to step up and step in. And I think that's what happens when you develop trust with the people that you work with. It's like, oh, that's important to you. Well, that's important to me now. And
right.
we're going to go forward together with that, like, because we can always do better together. We can have more of an impact when we have more people working on something. So I love that. That's an honor that you would say that. And I just look forward to many more projects working with you, and just continuing to see you thrive. I'm excited for that.
Thank you. I'm excited as well. I think that you can take Merit to complete new heights. So I'm excited to go to those new heights with you.
That's so sweet. Okay, well, thank you for being with me today, and
Of
that
course.
pretty much wraps it up.